selectors, and let's talk about Jockey. Okay, so this is another one we pretty heavily tested for the GP, but ended up not going with. And the reasoning is actually kind of sound. So it wasn't necessarily that I was testing it out heavily. It was actually Tiffany who was testing this one out pretty heavily. As you guys know, she's got a soft spot for Card Jockey. And we accidentally stumbled on a really powerful version of it. We ended up not taking it just because it sort of was like Dash Hirana, but instead of having a 90% success rate, 10% fail rate, it had like more like an 85% success rate and 15% fail rate, and neither one of us just felt comfortable risking that at the GP, though we feel completely confident just bringing this randomly to our locals and wiping people with it off the face of the earth in like 5 minutes. So if you like Dash Hirana, and you want something slightly different and maybe slightly more optimized to the metagame, this actually theoretically could scratch that itch. So the main idea with this is pretty simple: win on turn 4, right? Whereas the Dash Hirana lists can win on turn 3 50% of the time, wins on turn 4 50% of the time, and then loses if you go past this point. Card Jockey does not necessarily do that. In fact, what I found in our testing is that this version of Card Jockey will end the game 100% of the time on turn 4 if it doesn't blow up on itself. It does not let the opponent win. To put this into perspective, how does that happen? Well, your game plan is basically turn 1 and 2, do the normal Card Jockey thing, right? Just filter out your lanes, attack pretty hard, and then on turn 3, you're probably going to Endless Punchline. You're also very likely to DJ Love It Mix here, although if you want to change this to TJ Love It Crossfade, I wouldn't say it's a bad idea. I just personally like Mix better, just because it puts a ton of damage on the board immediately, and I like that to help Endless Punchline and inevitably the flat throw that we're going to play. Just definitely make it to the very end. So, all right, let's talk about this. Our turn 1 and 2 is going to be followed with just some amount of aggro, some amount of fixing our deck, and then inevitably on our turn 3, turn 4, whatever, probably turn 3, we are actually almost 100% turn 3. We are going to use Endless Punchline. The success rate on this Endless Punchline is a little lower than other Card Jockey decks because I had to push a little bit of damage output, but there's enough here that it could be good. Something I also found was you don't always need a full deck amount of deck thinning. There's enough mill in this game now that, especially 10 mil, which doesn't mill you out. Just to be clear here, 10 mil does not kill you. It's not like back in the day with Salvage the Future with mill 15, which almost always mills you out. 10 is not quite enough to end the game for Card Jockey. It actually can lower it down, so as long as you have a good first couple turns and you don't put level 1s down on your deck, against that sort of like mill, Ultra Superheroes mill, them milling you could be a positive thing for you because it lowers the amount of deck that you have and you only have level 3s left. Great, you're going to win that game. You're going to Endless Punchline on turn 3. Following that up, you are probably on turn 4 going to DJ Love It Mix, Flat Throw, and then you are also going to use Lion's once per game ability to basically say, I don't care how many guards you have, you're dead. And this matters a lot because most Esper players currently are guarding as much as they can on turn 1 and 2, and then when the Endless Punchline turn comes down, specifically because you're putting down map and they are so Enter light, they just don't have extra Enter. If they think they can survive the Endless Punchline, which oftentimes they can, they will not guard. Or they'll find some way, hit a life burst, deal with your production map, and then kind of enter, or kind of use that enter to pay for 1 guard or something. Inevitably, they'll barely survive oftentimes, right? And that's a lot of the times where Dash will just fail at that point. They just won't be able to do anything more. And that's where with MC Lion kicks in, where basically saying, I don't care that you have 3 guards in your hand, you got them last turn, and you held them for the Endless Punchline. I didn't let you use them because of my my taxing, but now that you have them, you think that you're good to go. Nope, I'm just going to kill you off here. And that is how MC Lion inevitably works in a nutshell. There's not many other changes to the deck. I used to have this as what's the card called? Brain farting on the name. Rhapsody Party, which also is just more filtering. It's a free filter at colorless, and you can exceed. And when you exceed, you're able to fill your hand out with 2 more cards, basically, and it also filters, so you can do stuff. I was using that as a way to get flat throw more cards, and it kind of worked. You could replace Burning Curiosity with it. Inevitably, I just like the ability to open a lane with Burning Curiosity, so I swapped it back to that. But talking about the main deck, right? You have just the idea is your early game. You're going to be using Good Dig, for example. The early game is just going to be you filtering your deck out. These 2 Quellas, by the way, are just filtering. You're going to play them for the filter and then trash them, because your level 3s that you're going to always play out are either projection maps or remembers. And that's it. Like, here's more level 1s that filter, right? This is Proto Energy filters. Doesn't filter great, but it filters fine. You'll use Get Remember even sometimes just for the 1 ability, not the draw 2. You might just draw 1. That's okay. Sometimes you'll get Remember when you have a Remember on the field, and it basically acts like a PJ map, because you can basically play the extra 1 to get some other stuff back in. Inevitably, that's the way this goes. This is a flex spot. I just need a life burst. So you'll never play this. You're going to always enter this. But it's a pretty good life burst, right? It's got the ability to look at the top 4 cards of your deck, add 2 from them, and then put the rest in the bottom, so it helps filter. Inevitably, this plays pretty well. If you have a good experience playing Dash Urana, this is harder to play. But if you want to level up Dash Urana, I actually think this is a very, very valid choice to play. I know, for example, the top placing Dash Urana at the GP was Anthony, and he is a big Card Jockey fan, and he felt the 2 played similar, so this is sort of like in his groove spot, where I'm sure he's really going to enjoy this type of deck. I found it to be very, very good. I found it fumbles on itself sometimes, and I was just unwilling to take that risk. Tiffany inevitably decided she was unwilling to take that risk as well, and just wanted to play mono white aggro, which I think was a great idea. I think it's probably one of the top decks in the format right now. And this also played a little poorly against opposing aggro decks, but it basically completely annihilates mid-range tempo and combo deck or control decks. So if you were looking for any of those types, if your meta has a lot of those things, just play this. You'll run over them. You really, really will run over them. It takes a little bit of practice, though, how to learn. Let me know what you guys think about this. I know it's not a ton different than the normal Card Jockey deck, but I think it is a serious upgrade.